Everything is fueled from me wanting to be a better person on earth.
It's time to do your part.
Back on the road. Actually, I shouldn't say back because I'm in Marina Del Rey. We already did one beautiful podcast here with George, but now I'm joined with another friend of mine. We're talking 20 plus years, and we were talking a moment ago. Every time you and I start chatting, everything just gets unpacked quickly. Right?
Yeah, it does.
I love it. So
it's great.
So thank you we had a conversation once before. We spent an hour and we said, you know what, let's redo this. We can do better, right?
Right.
I love that you've got such a perspective and such a voice. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely honored to be here.
I love it. I love it. And you know, my first question always, why did you decide to say yes the first and second time?
That's a great starting point because it really develops like from there, like, you know, where we're going to go with this. And I think that if nothing else, it comes from hope. It comes from what everyone can do in the human spirit. Everybody wants to do something great at some point, I feel. And sometimes you can't do something great, but what you can do is you can do a lot of good things, right? This is a great thing that you're doing, and it's cool to be a part of it.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that. I feel like because I've known you for so long and you're a good dude, you've probably done a lot of great things, right? Like we were just actually talking about you becoming a big brother. I don't know if you were serious about that, but I think it would be something that you would, that would be a huge opportunity. I would love to have been your little brother.
Yeah, it sounds like a cool thing to do, and I actually would do it.
Oh yeah. All right. So thank you for that first question. And you know, we were already talking on the couch. We've got a lot to talk about. But first and foremost, I want you to tell me a bit about where you grew up, a bit about your experience, and kind of, you know, how you got to be you and where you are today.
Well, that's a big question. I mean, I'm from LA, lived in California most of my life. I did spend about 12 years out of the country. I moved around to Korea. I was in London. I was in Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Iraq. Not military or anything like that.
Okay.
It was like oil and gas type stuff.
Wow. Not in Korea though.
No, Korea, I was teaching English in Korea.
Okay, so this is what I want, and we kind of talked about this last time. So I really want you to tell me how you got. Tell me more about your childhood, and then I'm excited to hear about how you got to these places, because this is kind of when I met you, is when you were kind of in the back and forth of moving, right?
Right. Yeah.
I remember meeting you, and then we connected quickly through our group, and then you were off again.
Yeah, I was in and out all the time for a good amount of time.
But you were off, like on the other side of the planet. So I'm sorry, I interrupted you. So you're from LA. Go on.
Oh, from LA, and lived in San Francisco for quite some time. My whole family's in LA also, and you know, their grandparents from there too.
Are you an only child?
No, I have one sister, and I have two stepbrothers that have been my stepbrothers since I was like 4 years old.
So that's fam.
That counts. Yeah, exactly. So just lived in Reno for a while, which I'm not particularly proud of. I don't like to admit it.
The biggest little city
in the world. Biggest little city in the world, baby.
Go on.
So that was when I was kind of growing up, and then I moved back to LA right at high school. Right at first year of high school. So I went to like 5 or 6 different high schools here in LA, like in the same area.
Wow. Why is that?
I just wanted to sample different types of learning from different institutions. No, I'm just joking. I got kicked out of like almost every high school I went to. So I was having fun.
I actually I almost feel like the first joking answer seemed
you almost got it.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Because again, you've got a just different kind of intellect about you. And again, I think a lot of it is attributed to your travels, but it didn't surprise me. So go on, bullshitter, continue.
All right. So I went up back in LA, you know, hung out here for a while, did some school, whatever. Went up to San Francisco, went to school there. Did 1 year in London, school also. And I came back to San Francisco. Stayed there a few more years.
When you say school, like were you like studying something specific?
I was studying research methods in neuropsychology.
So yeah, okay.
Yeah, like math basically or whatever. And I sucked at it. It was horrible. I was so glad to get out of there. Yeah.
I'm sure you didn't suck at it. Put me to the test. That would suck. Go on.
Trust me.
I don't even know what the hell you just said. Okay, go on.
No, me either. So then, actually, after I left London, I didn't go straight home. I went to Southeast Asia for 6 months. I'm just like, I have nothing to go home to necessarily. Like, life's good. I have friends and family. Not that. But I was like, there's no rush for me to get home. I have no appointment.
So you didn't miss American life? You didn't miss like In and Out and shit?
Yeah, of course. Of course, but there are so many other things that were overwhelmingly different and more positive than something like that. But you always retain like In and Out, of course. Yeah, that's the first place I went to out of the airport every single time was In and Out. Until Doghouse came around, actually.
Nice, right? Good plug, and I'm glad I used In and Out. I was actually kidding. Go on.
Right. So
that's how good it is. Go ahead.
It is. So yes, I was always traveling. You know, I think we've been on a few trips, and our close friends. We've all been on trips
Europe,
together.
Mexico,
a bunch of times. And so I kind of caught the bug, and so I was in San Francisco, and I was like working kind of a corporate-y job that I didn't love, and I was burned out, whatever. And I was like, I took a year off. I was like writing like philosophy. I really wanted to like write philosophy and like those types of books and like those type of topics, I guess. And I was just bored, and I think I can on Craigslist or something. I must have applied for a job, and I was like really high. And they wrote back saying like, hey, you can have this job. And I was like, you're in Korea? And then like, to be honest, I'm like, Google Maps, like, where is Korea exactly? I didn't really know, knew nothing about it. And I was like, this is calling out to me. I'm going to go for it. And so I like.
Did you make that decision like after you Googled it?
How long? Well, it looked cool.
How long did it take you to make that decision that you were going to go?
Probably a few days. Like there was a girl I was dating, and like, and that was also sort of like going like its own like petering out, maybe.
I remember her.
Yeah, yeah. And she's awesome. But you know, like I talked to her, and like I just felt like I felt like I was being pulled there for some reason, right? And so I just went with it.
It was bigger than just a decision.
Yeah, it was like it obviously came out of the universe somewhere, and plus timing seemed to be right, whatever. So I went there, planned on going for 1 year. I wound up staying there for 3 years because I liked it. From there, I didn't have a job. Actually, I moved to China for a job that didn't exist when I got there. So that kicked off like, dude, I have no job, and like I'm ready to go. And so I traveled around the world for 1 year.
Wow.
Like literally like around like 1.5 times type thing.
Just like I'm envisioning a backpack. Like
yeah.
Just okay. So where'd you go in that year?
Well, yeah. So first, when I moved to China, I had like a suitcase and a backpack and another bag, whatever, right? So very quickly, I just started like throwing stuff out of my bags and like leaving it in hotels. I don't need that. I don't need that. I don't need that. Wow. And it got down to a backpack. I was in Kathmandu, Nepal for 6 months. I was in India, just all around India for maybe another 3 months. And then in Europe for our good friend's wedding that year. And then from there, I got recruited to work and do some more teaching in Saudi Arabia, which was like, I was kind of hesitant about because that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
And,
especially for Americans.
Yeah, I feel so. I mean, yeah, something like that, right? Like I just didn't know it, whatever. And that's a very restrictive country, one of the most restrictive in the world. And when I say restrictive, there's a lot to go into there, but it's, it's, compared to like America, what we think is like, oh, freedoms of what we want to do and all that kind of stuff. You didn't really have it there. Yeah. Right. With big punishment. So I was there for a year. And then
And you were teaching English there?
Yeah, I was teaching in a university there.
Gotcha.
Like business, English, all that kind of stuff, right? And then from there, I met some dudes like that worked in oil and gas, and I had never worked in oil and gas before. And they recruited me, and I wound up working out of Dubai and like in Iraq and Kurdistan, and then throughout Africa a little bit, not as much Africa, but quite a bit.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was really cool times.
So you were able to travel, which you loved, which you fell in love with doing, and make some cash as well. I mean, Africa,
absolutely.
Saudi Arabia. This isn't just like a job in London. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was an adventure.
So, tell me about the adventure. Was it all positive? I mean, did you tell me about Africa? I mean, did you make friends along the way? Like, what did you learn from this?
Yeah, well, you learn that you always make friends, and like when I go traveling or whatever, like I'm not trying to chat people up. I'm not trying to be friends with anyone. Like me, I'll hey, make comments or like.
Well, now's a good time for me to ask you because I asked you this before. For a lot of the podcasts, we always try to encourage people to travel, right? Because it's you can gain so much knowledge. So travel. Absolutely. So people are like, I think the idea, if you've never done it, seems daunting and scary, right? But the way you're making it sound is like, you're like dumping clothes in hotels and stuff. So give us some examples or actual steps as to how you travel and take some of this fear out of it if you can.
Yeah, well, the fear, I mean, there's dangerous things in the world, there's good things in the world, whatever. So I get why people, say that at some point. But I mean, the biggest fear obviously comes from inside, right? Like I once read a quote, I forget the exact quote, but it was something like people who, like, what was it? Like, in order to combat loneliness, you have to be alone.
I get it. Yeah.
Right.
Or just anything you fear.
Yeah.
You have to face it.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So that whole thing. And then so you have to be really comfortable being alone. Not just, I mean, like that's most of it, right? Like wherever you go there, you're alone unless you meet someone in chat for whatever it is or blah, blah, blah.
That's my biggest fear is being alone.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like in a relationship, just like spending time alone.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
A lot. I know we have some other friends like that too, right? Just can't be alone. Wants to be on the phone, wants to be chatting or doing
to
whatever it
access
is.
somebody, just energy around.
So there's something deep about it there. And then there's also like just go, right? It's like jumping in the pool. It's like anything else, right? Like once you're in the pool, you're like, oh, this is awesome. Why didn't I jump into it?
So you have a different kind of grit about you. That's also something I guess can't be learned.
Yeah, everything I think
kind
can
of
be
fearless?
learned. Yeah, I mean, it's just it's definitely not fearless. I grew up in LA, right? So there's I'd like to think that I have a sense of like street smarts or like hey, like if there's bad places. Any city in the world, there's a bad neighborhood. How bad it is, who knows? But
Right.
like there's something, right?
It's true.
So hey, maybe I won't go down that street.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'll look it up 5 minutes before and see like where's good and where's bad, or whatever
Just
it is.
common
right?
sense.
Common sense, street smarts, all that kind of stuff, and like be aware of your surroundings and all that. The stuff that everything you do usually just has to be more heightened, because also when you're there, depending on where you are, like you're quite often pegged as not from there, right? They can tell your hat's backward, you're not following like the shoe custom, whatever it is, right? Something like that. So yeah, that's a big part of it, and it's also very rewarding too, right? You get a lot out of it. I don't,
A ton out of it.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know what it is you get out of it, but I definitely like they say, man, you can't go wrong with the old broadens your horizons and like your views of the world and your views
true.
of people.
Yeah.
And views of yourself, how you handle adversity in some of these situations too.
It's with these conversations, I'm all over the place. But the little takeaway I asked from you just a moment ago is that for me is that dress accordingly, don't be obvious, but obviously practice a lot of common sense. And it's true. It's like if you change your perspective on how you view cities and counties and countries and the world, there's danger everywhere. So it's like you really just have to use your wits about you and just go do it.
Yeah.
Travel. Out of all of these places, what was the most beautiful? Like what left the biggest impression, and what was the most beautiful?
My tenants, there's places are beautiful for different reasons. My go-to answer on this is Korea, actually, Four Seasons and mountains and sea and all that, or Thailand.
Wow.
But I have to say, Iraq was pretty stunning, and Kurdistan,
Really?
amazing.
I feel like we are kind of subconsciously trained or told to not ever want to travel in those areas.
Yeah, it strikes fear, right?
Yeah.
And it's sure it's dangerous, but just looking at the country and like the place, it's beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you moved around. Tell me a bit about Africa, and then tell me how you got home. Obviously, I know how you got home, but what brought you home and what keeps you here?
Africa actually brought me home in a weird way. I kind of like broke my.
Should we move into our Black Lives Matter?
Yeah, hey, we're there. Actually, I broke my back when I was in Africa, and so I came home. I had surgery, whatever, and I came back to LA to rehab.
Where in Africa was this?
This was in Equatorial Guinea, which is a small island off the east coast, like just under the Horn.
You're under the Horn. You're a trip, dude. That is a trip. So, and again, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to chat with you. I mean, so you broke your back in Guinea. Well, how did you break your back?
A lifetime of play now, pay later, or sports, or bad drunk decisions, or that one time in football, or painting the house, or a lifetime of that. So, I forget what actually did it. But it was like, I was in Africa. I was far away from. I was on an island in a small, tiny country where there was like barely anything. It was like for oil and gas, right? So I was like, this is the worst place to to break my back, whatever it is. But like, I tried to go to work. I sat there. It took me like 8 hours to get ready because I wasn't asleep anyways because I was like messed up, and I was like 10 minutes to put the shoes on, whatever it is. But like, so anyways, fast forward, came back to LA to recuperate, and met up with one of our good friends.
Let me interrupt you real quick.
Go ahead. Yeah, please.
Through all of these travels, where was your family? Where was your mom? Where were these people saying, like, get your ass home? Like, was anybody, obviously, right? You're loved. You have family. You have friends. Would anybody have concern or, like, it's Thanksgiving? Like, what's good?
Yeah. My mom, all of those things.
Yeah.
All of those
She's probably
things.
worried sick.
Absolutely, man. And, but yeah, talk to her all the time. And, like, that's something you have to do, especially with, like, parents and stuff like that. Or those who you love and love you, right? Like, you have to communicate with them.
Yeah.
You have to reach out. You have to be the guy that picks up the phone sometimes, whatever it is. So so she was okay. She got through it. She knew I was having fun.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I had to ask. All right. So you moved back to LA, and then you got in touch with one of our good friends.
Yep. And then I started working with their restaurant group. So I did that for the past 5.5 years.
Mm-hmm. And that's a very fast-growing, thriving kind of
Doghouse.
Yeah. It's a really cool company.
It's an awesome company. Great people too.
Yeah, and the culture behind it is very. I would like to work. If I wasn't doing all this, that would be really cool to work for the Doghouse.
Dude, it's so much fun.
All right, so let's talk a bit about. All right, I'm just going to jump right in. So, how are you dealing with a lot of the tension going on and a lot of the, I'll just say, arguments? Well, we won't reduce it to politics or Black Lives Matter, but just in general, how are you navigating through these conversations with people, or are you at all?
Yeah, I definitely am. I'm one of those people that just, I like to chat also. I like to hear people's opinions, whether I agree with them or not. Like sometimes it's even more beneficial when I don't agree with them. It's more interesting. But yeah, I've talked to my family, I've talked to my friends, like I bring it up if someone else doesn't. And
you push the conversation.
I wouldn't say I push it, but if there's a chance, like I like to throw a little like fuel bomb on the fire sometimes, right? Like you see it kind of hanging out there, and when you just pop the bubble, and it's like, okay, everyone wants to say something, I can tell, like, okay, let's go. Yeah, exactly. So and then just a lot of self-reflection also, right? I mean, like Jesus, like the pandemic and all these things. I mean, the pandemic in a way has given a lot of people time, myself included, to have time to do stuff like that, right? And the more conversations you have with people, the more, theoretically, you think about those conversations and what people say and what you agree with, what you don't agree with, and you examine your own views, and you try and correct what was wrong if something was wrong, or you're trying to be better, or whatever it is, right? But I mean, acknowledging, the elephant in the room, as you call it, like whatever it is, like it needs to be talked about. That's the only way things go forward.
A, what is the elephant in the room? And B, because now I'm going to be more pointed with you.
Okay.
Let's start getting, checking this stuff off the list.
Okay.
Let's just go straight to A, because,
So I think, right now there's a lot of elephants in the room, right? One of them, obviously Black Lives Matter. And I use that term to describe the entire movement, right? Not the organization per se. Because I don't know enough about the organization, to be honest. So, that's huge, and it's huge all over the world. It's not just here, right? It's not just in the U.S., but it's all over the world. But we're talking about, our problem in the U.S., right? Which, through this, I've learned, to say the word learned, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but like, I did. I learned a lot about, like, I sat and thought, like shit, this has been a problem, that I didn't even, realize, really. I mean, everyone knows, right? Everyone knows, like, dude, slavery is bad, and like, and the problems still exist. Everyone knows that. But you get lulled into life, and you're like, well, that's kind of normal, right? It normalizes.
Well, we're all kind of narcissistic. So if it's not in your face or part of your daily, then it's it's not in front of you. It's seen outside out of mind. Go ahead.
Exactly. So the atrocities and all that is real, and the atrocities that happened a long time ago that still happen today, obviously, right? I'm going to get even more direct with you because I did lose my train of thought there for a moment, because first of all, I had a kind of a corny question, but it's like a moment ago you were talking about one of the biggest things you can do is learn and have conversation. What does learning feel like, right? Because I know for some people, like for me, when I have these conversations and I'm like, oh, okay, I never thought about it that way. I feel inflated. It feels good. Does that resonate with you? Yeah, it feels like growth. It feels like you're different than you were yesterday, or it feels like, there's like a lightness to it.
Do you think everybody feels that way or has the same perspective? Because I feel like there's a lot of willfully closed minds.
Absolutely. There's a range of people, there's across the spectrum, there's one of each person, right? So there's going to be closed minds, and you can try and open their minds, but they're thinking the same thing, like they're going to try and open our minds to what they believe, right? And sometimes it's tough to say who's better on smaller issues, but I think the one issue that everyone can agree on is like that we need to pay attention to what's going on in America, specifically right now.
People have always needed to pay attention, and somebody asked me today, how did this whole podcast start? And part of my answer was a lot of my white friends after George Floyd and Breonna Taylor were like, hey, like checking on me, and they felt like they wanted to do their part, and I'm thinking this is just another day for Black people. Granted, it's making national news. That's probably it's a good thing. It's got its negative sides to it, but the dialogue's happening, and that's important. I'll just cut right to it. So let's talk about protests, because I know that you live in Hollywood and you kind of spilled out into the street, and I don't know if it was intentional. In speaking with you, I thought you were a little more cultured as far as this, and it seems like this might be new for you, as you said. The awareness and taking the time to think about it.
Right. Yes.
So tell me about the protest and how that happened for you.
They're right outside our front door, but I didn't participate in the first couple because, being from LA, we've been through this before, and we know sometimes where it goes south or it goes whatever it is.
Tear gas and
or it's like people just getting messed up on the street, or like as well as stores, it's chaos, right? So I wanted to see what the protests were about, and so a couple times actually we went down and joined the protest, joined the march. we're there with the people. We're there like in spirit and in protest of what was happening.
So it wasn't planned.
It wasn't. I wanted to go to one. That's like the old punk rock kid in me. Like I wanted to stand against the bad things that suck, right? And like that sucks. Like, and what happened, like to say it sucks is minimizing it. Like it's like, I mean, it's horrible. And it's not just that one thing, right? That happened to be like the the flag that sent everyone up, right?
The straw that broke the, yeah.
There you go, yeah. So yeah, I wanted to be a part of it, and I want to be a part of it. But sometimes you're not sure exactly how you're going to be a part of it, right?
Yeah.
And then you can just do your part.
Hey,
Trademark.
hashtags,
Trademark,
all over the
go on
place.
the commercial.
That's my boy. 2 questions. What was the takeaway as you left? And what was the energy like? Because when we talked about this before, I thought there'd be like a party in the streets and you'd be meeting people, but that wasn't necessarily the energy, right?
Not at this particular one, and maybe just not for me or whatever it is. To be honest, I took away that there's a lot of dorks out there that are doing their own thing. Can I say that? Like,
are these like the Instagram models that go out there and snap a shot and then run away?
Type of stuff. I mean, you're in Hollywood, so you get more of that, of course. But there's people that I think that were there for other reasons, right? There was a bit of a party atmosphere to it, and then the protests the next week that I didn't go to, they said there was like 20,000 people, and that was like the West Hollywood one. I think that was combined with Pride.
Okay, gotcha.
They linked up, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that one was definitely a party atmosphere, but that had the link in for Pride, right? So understood. Like this one, like there's people partying and kind of like, and I get it. There's a lot of steam to be blown off too for everyone.
Yeah.
For everyone, right?
With COVID alone, it's like, get me out of this.
1,000%, man. It's like it's a boiling pot that just kind of reached a temperature and kind of went off a little bit. But what did I take from it? Like there's a message there. I feel in solidarity. I feel like with the sincerity of the movement and where it's coming from and whatever it is. And it doesn't matter like anything else. It matters that I feel this way and I want to support this. Right? We can go into details about this, that, and the other thing, but that's why I want to be a part of it.
I love it. All right. So how do we get people to kind of understand and have a similar perspective with yours? How do we get people that look like you, right? People in your groups, in your social groups that, how do we get people to have a little more empathy?
Well,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's a big one, man. To be honest, like what you're doing now, I mean, it's getting out there. We were talking earlier about I don't search out podcasts like this or like anything in particular. I don't even really listen to a lot of podcasts, to be honest. Read books, but not podcasts. So, and in the 5,000 new things I see every day on Instagram and Facebook and people talking or whatever it is in the TV at the gas station now, whatever it is, I never see anything like that come across. Like, hey, we're doing like this cool thing to raise awareness, whatever. There's one Facebook group I think I mentioned earlier to you.
Yeah.
But in general, like you see, influencers, or you see the Lakers, or whatever you follow, you see that kind of stuff. But if you're not following it, then you're not going to see it all the time. So so it's hard to have awareness in that way. So I think what you're doing is great for that reason.
Thank you.
The other way to do it is you talk to people, right?
Yeah.
In the last couple of months, I've been doing this little gig, whatever, right? Like selling some stuff, legal stuff, by the way, if the cops are watching. You get opportunity to talk to people every day, right? Like, like people come in to buy stuff, like, hey, how you doing? Where you come from? Whatever it is. Just shoot the shit.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, right? And sometimes, right, like, what do you think about what's going on? Innocent question, and then you just kind of see like where that goes, and you have a chance to talk to somebody, and you have a chance to listen to somebody, right? And so like that's really important too, is right. It's not always like we need to talk to these people. We have to talk. Like you have to listen too, man. Like like people want to be heard, whatever their opinion is. And but I think that if there's no communication, then you're not stirring the pot. And how can things go forward? How can new things come out if old things aren't mixed up and regenerated new things? Right?
Yeah. And at some point, you do have some philosophies, and I want to talk a little bit about conspiracy theories and all that stuff in a bit, but. 2 things again. For some reason I'm all about twos today. Right. So I saw something on Facebook, and a friend who it's no longer a friend, and I hate having to like this social media thing is weird. Like I have to unfriend you for this.
You unfriended, unfollowed.
I had to unfriend him because he went on a rant and basically said there was no such thing as racism in the United States.
Yeah.
And I just was like, I was gobsmacked. And I said, I don't want to see this. And again, because I usually just delete people because it makes me feel bad when I see stuff like that. And I don't like that feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
So instead of unfriending you, but still playing that game, it's like, I can't. And that feels toxic to me.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about, like, what is that? I mean, you're not black, so you can't be like, but you don't have my perspective. But what do you say to that? Because people really believe that.
I don't know if they do. I don't know. I don't know.
This dude did.
Yeah.
This dude. I mean, he put it on Facebook. It was his word out in the internet.
Right. Yeah, I believe a lot of people actually believe that. That's a real thing, obviously. But I think there's so in traveling, if I can take it back there.
Oh, please, always.
Like, you meet everyone's the same, and I don't mean like, oh, everyone's the same, everyone's cool, man. It's not like that. But like, it's a learned. I think hate is a lot of learned behavior, right? And I think that because you want to identify with something, with the people that live around me, right? Like, I want to be part of this group, so I'm going to go extra to so they believe, whatever it is, right? And that can be a geographical, whatever it is, but. I think it's learned, and I think some people just like, I mean, it sounds stupid, like they hate themselves, right? They're just full of anger. Yes. And they want to like destroy, right? And like, and there's something in destruction that can be positive, right? Creation, destruction, all that kind of thing. But like, yeah, they just want to like, watch the world burn, or like just, inspire hatred and just be this like, beacon of hatred or whatever. And so what can you say to someone like that? I mean, you definitely can argue on Facebook, right? Like who wants to do that? Or who wants to enter into a conversation with someone who will not hear the other side? Yeah. Why bother? Yeah. So then you're talking to a wall. Yeah. So then you're reduced to like taking shots or something like that, and that goes nowhere too. So yeah, I avoid that, man. I avoid that negativity. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like everyone has it. It's anybody can be negative, anybody can be positive, and I think it comes down to a big choice. To trying to be positive and trying to do the right thing, right? So it shouldn't be like just like this. I mean, it should be like this effortless thing, but like with life going on, you have to like constantly try to do the right thing, be a better person. It's
just weird. I feel like for the majority of us, we learn at a very young age how just manners and how to conduct ourselves and be civil and treat people the right way, and even you learn empathy at a young age, like even putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. Yeah, it's a simple step, but you can do it. And at some point, a lot of people have lost that if they or didn't have it at all at come a certain age. What do you have to say to like? I don't like white rage because I feel like it's pointed. It's too pointed. But what do you have to say to that? Because I always blamed it on like movies. Well, yeah, let's go into Karens. Okay. Yeah, these people with incredible entitlement and a lot of anger to expel.
Yeah. Shoot, yeah, they've never been challenged before, right? I mean, like this is a big challenge for them culturally. Maybe it's like threatening their way of life or whatever it is, and it's actually a pretty unhealthy response. What Karens do, I use that word jokingly.
It's so corny, but yeah,
it is. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not like I don't know, it's not very impressive, right? To be honest, But yeah, what do you? I mean, again. Like they kind of believe there's no amount of arguing, especially when they're in that state, that's going to like make them see your point, right? Yeah. So you have to kind of like I don't know, build around it, right? Like be the change, right? Don't try and change everyone else all the time. Like try and change yourself. That's the only thing you can really control ever, anyways, right? Yeah, yeah. And you hope to make an influence where it's positive where possible.
Yeah, I don't regret saying that, but I feel no regrets, but I feel like that's another example of how there's so much generalization in conversation. You know what I mean? It's like everybody has to be grouped and everybody has to have a decided opinion without even having these conversations. That's a trip that when you said destruction and creation, I feel like let's move into that conversation a little bit about, the fear for the future and COVID. And what are your thoughts with that? I mean, should we be from what you've learned and researched, should we be as nervous as we are? What's going on? Talk about that.
I don't know. Like people are pretty nervous and I think as much confused as they are nervous, right? Super confused, right? And I don't know.
I know you're not Fauci, but like,
no, no, I know.
You get my question.
Yeah, I think that the coronavirus is a real thing, right? You can put it in a petri dish, and there it is, and that's the one we're looking for, right? So it exists. I think the pandemic is kind of bullshitty. Really, I think it's like being used for to institute other things in society and shape society in a certain way.
I think a lot of us felt that intuitively and have since the beginning.
Gut
it's
check.
like something isn't right. Go ahead.
Trust your gut. Yeah,
so
exactly. So and I think that the coronavirus or the threat of the coronavirus. I mean, the coronavirus is basically what the 50s version of the Russians, or the 80s and 90s version of Middle Easterners or something like that. It's the boogeyman a little bit.
Gotcha.
Right?
There's a lot of propaganda behind it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So now we're in fear of something that we can't see. That it's there. It's all around you and blah blah blah. But you can take a bite. It won't get you.
And boy, is that a different kind of fear. I mean, it has been just a roller coaster for every single person. And just talking about friends and similar people that we know having little mini breakdowns and just bouts of depression. It's very bizarre.
Well, yeah. How do you in one swift move divide every single person from each other? Everything else, hey, we're a group, we feel this way. Now you're divided. You're physically divided. They call it social, but you're every single person is looking at everyone else family or what, less so family, but on the street, you just walk in the street and there's this, right? And people are literally as divided as ever. Starting there.
Did you ever think that we would see this? Not pandemic in general, just the division of people blending with this year. Did you ever think we would see this?
No.
How, you know what I mean?
This is crazy, but the issue of division, going back to race and politics and all that kind of stuff. It seems like it's really kind of what do you say? It's sort of forced division a lot of the time, right? They'll pump this up and this will happen and whatever it is, and things happen, but you pay attention to it. You don't pay attention to anything else, just left, right, white, black, white, all this
narrative.
Yeah, exactly. So, people are divided. How many ways can you name that people are divided? A lot, right? And then so now it's you're super literally divided from everyone from each other, right? So even if you agree in 25 other things, you're divided on this one, quite necessarily. But yeah, I think it's kind of it's not that I'm inconvenienced or I think it's lame. I think it sucks. It's not that I care that much. People's lives and economics and all that kind of stuff, 1,000%.
Yeah.
But I think that they're using it as a tool of fear and divisiveness.
Gotcha. I'm glad I asked that because again, it's more than just the virus. There's always some story. There's some story with everything and anything.
Yep.
Good, bad, and ugly.
Yep.
Okay, so tell me a bit about some of the stuff that you might want to touch on, because again, we've still got a lot to cover. I want to use this moment for you to talk about some things that you might want to talk about. Why do you put your glass down there? That makes me nervous.
Does it make you nervous? I can put it up here.
Okay, I felt like you were going to there was going to be a production, if you had some a deck of cards in your pocket.
my flip chart over here.
There you go.
Yeah. My what do you call it? The overhead projector.
There you go.
That'd be awesome. We have a glass table for it.
Yeah, that's a throwback right there.
So we had spoken about this, and for some reason, I felt it would be a great topic for a white guy to talk about is the N word.
Oh yeah.
Right, and I feel like I'm just making the worst decision of my life right now by going and talking about this.
No.
But I think it's.
I will co-sign you.
Interesting.
In fact, we can edit this out, and I can broach the conversation. We're going to talk about the N word right now. So I would like for you to talk about that. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to go. There's always a lot that goes into all this thinking, whatever it is. But in a nutshell, ER version, horrible, and the atrocities in the past, and there's a reason why it's the most hated word and the most horrible word in the world, right? Cool. AH version. I don't know if you put an H on the end.
No, God, no.
Just A?
Just A.
Okay. Learn something new every day, man.
Yeah.
So just the A version, a lot of people my age, our age, grew up with hip hop. So NWA, whatever it is, it's all through the songs, and you rap along with your favorite songs. Right? Okay.
And you know them front to back.
Absolutely, right? And you still do, and and even new songs and whatever it is, and from that casual lingo was born. Whatever. It's not just about that word, but in general, right? In this culture. So cool. So I never said the ER word, and I never really said the A word, right? It came out a couple times, in fun or in whatever it is,
What's the A word?
That's NIGGA.
Oh, copy that. Go ahead.
A.
Sorry.
Whatever it is, you're doing a character with your friends or something like that, or whatever it is,
You've never said nigga?
I've said. I've said A word. I've said that version.
Let me let you get.
I've never said ER.
Point.
I've never said ER.
Gotcha.
Right.
Not a once.
Not that I can recall. Or not a situation whatever, say that.
A dude living in the 80s in California.
ER?
ER.
That's harsh. No, you can't say that.
Well, of course it's harsh, but I've heard it a handful of times.
But NIGGA Like, that's not
get
harsh.
back to that. Go ahead. All right. So why isn't that harsh?
I'm not saying that it's not that harsh, but I feel like it's not as harsh because it's everywhere. That's the version in hip hop and songs and our culture, right? Like, you don't often hear like the ER version in songs. Okay. So I was like, all right, like, and I saw something like there's a girl like at a Kendrick Lamar concert or something like that, and she got on stage and she was rapping the lyrics, and that word came up, and she rapped it.
Oh yeah,
You see that? And everyone's like, oh, and like everyone in the place, like what, 10,000 people?
If not more.
If not more,
I mean,
right?
it felt big.
Staples
The
Center.
moment felt big. Go
Dude,
on.
and you're on stage and like, oh, what'd I just do, right?
Yeah.
And he was like super cool, and he's like, hey, you can't say that word, try it without. And she did it, and everyone's like, yay, whatever, cool. But then I was like thinking,
But
like,
she was forgiven in that moment instantly, wasn't she?
absolutely. Well, can you imagine if they didn't? Like, 10,000 people are going to tear her
Absolutely.
apart and shame her. Like,
Oh, totally.
Good luck getting out.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Okay. So then, like, in thinking about this, I'm like, well, a couple of things. Like, hey, if they can say it, why can't I? Number one. Number two, like, if it's such a horrible word, why do we want to keep using it? Like anybody, right? Like, whatever. So to go back to the first one, why can they say it and I can't? Right. And in general, like, dude, like, wherever you're from in the world, like, there's certain things that from your home people can say to you, and you're like, you can say it, you can't. Right. Like, there's like a locals thing or whatever it is. Right. So I think there's that aspect to it, and I get that. But the other one, I was like, well, that seems kind of hypocritical, right? Like, how come they, still, it just bothered me. Like, like why is that? And I came across some clip, Instagram or something like that, and like, there's a black professor, and he was addressing this topic. And he's like, yeah, for white guys who like think it's hypocritical, why can't we say it? If they do, whatever it is, like, here's my answer. He's like, now you know how it feels. And he was like, oh, you feel like that's hypocritical? You feel like you're being wronged that someone can do something and you can't? Now you know how it feels. And I was like,
how simply put.
Right? And I was like,
Brilliant.
yeah, just mind blown.
I mean, for real, mind blown.
Right.
And that is a hair on the dog. That is a snowflake in comparison, but that is a beautiful example.
Right. Straight to the point.
And you know what's crazy is that a lot of white folks go crazy. Like, why can't they really? Yeah. They have their teeth in this conversation because it's something that they can't do.
Right. Yeah, and you can say, like, well, is that the right approach? Like it's like payback, right? Well, now we're payback. What was wrong here, now what was wrong there. Right?
That wasn't the plan. Go on.
Right, and it's not the point. The point is like like exactly what he said, and that should be enough. Right? Like, because it's a stupid battle.
It is.
You know what I mean? Like,
it is.
Unless you really want to run around saying it all day, but like, who does, right? Like,
let's talk about. I don't know if you were done. All right, hold on. Okay. No, look, and again, like, we can move into the conversation as far as knowing your room, knowing the space. If you're quoting a song, if you're in the car alone, if you're in the shower, if you have certain friends that permit it. I don't think that's where the conversation's going. Right. But you, again, because you do have this kind of philosophical kind of, you got some depth to you. Let's talk about the vocabulary, the linguistic side of all of that. How do we equate that to, say, faggot or gay? I mean, is it the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of gay men, we will refer to each other as faggot, marry, gay, girl, all that shit, right?
Yeah.
On
Jew.
the reg.
I feel like Jews in that category.
Jew. Gays don't call each other Jews.
No,
I'm just
Jews.
kidding. No, you're right. No, you're right.
That was good as a gallery.
I
feel, right? Like, is Jew like it's a sensitive word? At least.
Correct, but it's another example, and then we could go on.
Right.
So what do you think about that as far as, because I think that there's a lot to be said about context and intent.
For sure.
That's why I think that white girl was so instantly forgiven, because she was just in the moment.
Yeah.
But I will say this much. I was talking to these two girls from Michigan on the podcast, and I mentioned that sometimes black folks are tested.
Right.
I'm not saying that what she did was on purpose, but we all think. So in that moment, she could have said bleep, or she said it to see. She tested the moment, and she got kind of lucky, right?
Yeah.
Because he was cool about it.
He was like the coolest you could have been about it.
But then again, after that, it would have almost looked like what do they call that when they set you up? Cops set you up. It's like
entrapment.
Yes.
Yeah.
It almost looked almost like entrapment a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. Totally.
Like, let's get that white girl. Come on.
This will be funny.
Yeah. This will be real fucking funny. And I know, I guess that was more of a point than a question. But again, the vocab and the linguistic and the real background of the intent of the word is really the conversation, right?
It is. Absolutely. Because what it's tied to, that's what it is. And, and things change, right? So it went from like Like the more culturally like relevant of today is like the with the A at the end, not the hard ER, right?
Yeah.
Because that other one, that's a beast of a word, man. That's
Yeah.
that's a word. And the A is like, okay, it's accepted by everyone, right? People don't get upset when they hear it.
For the most
context,
part, yeah.
Context, right? Like I'm talking like songs and music.
Right, right. Culturally, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, semantics in general play a huge part in everything, and how we speak to each other, and like what we really mean by our words, and like sometimes like entire arguments can be solved by a clarification of one word, or what it means to somebody, what it actually means, what it actually
What
refers
that
to.
professor said. Boom.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Boom.
And then when you hear the answer, you're like, now it totally makes sense.
And again, if people just want to learn a bit and open up their ears, and it's as simple as that. Go listening to a professor, popping up a YouTube, right? I mean, it's all of there's so much wealth of knowledge. It's unbelievable how much access we have to all of this stuff.
Absolutely.
Jane Elliott, is that her name? This white woman who's been talking about racism for years and showing rooms of people examples, using them to show how systemic racism works. You can find all that stuff. Very fascinating.
Jane Elliott? Okay.
I believe it's Jane Elliott. I almost want to Google it now. Excuse me.
Word.
Whatever. NWA. I threw the second hiccup in there.
Totally.
Let's talk a bit about culturally what that did for you, what you saw within your, I'm assuming you were probably junior high going into high school or in high school.
Probably, yeah, beginning of high school maybe.
Okay. So talk about what that, right? Because that was like, that like doors were kicked open that created a huge wave as far as culture in general. Tell me a bit about what that experience was like for you. Because I think a lot of your empathy comes from that.
Comes from what?
Black culture and black music.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Los Angeles. I wasn't like in the projects or anything like that. You know what I mean? But like, obviously, it's a melting pot of people from around the world. And my high school was predominantly, well, one of my high school, but the fifth high school I went to.
I cannot believe you got kicked out of 4. That is
well, I think one I just left. I went there to get in the yearbook, and then next day I just bailed out.
You're crazy. Go ahead.
It counts. I was in the yearbook.
Unbelievable.
Definitely counts. I have proof.
I was going to say, we'll get your proof, folks. We'll get your proof. Go ahead.
So yeah, well, okay. I mean, just culturally, like, I mean, I grew up like listening to like punk rock and heavy metal and stuff, and that always had an attitude, right? Built into it. And then
rebellion, anarchy, yeah.
And then, like I wasn't particularly into like like that early New York hip hop just yet, but NWA, man, like you said, they kicked the doors off of everything.
Yeah.
Everything, and a new era was born of music and LA gangster scene and all that kind of stuff, and everything that came along with all the great movies came along with it. Everything came out, and it was awesome. I mean, I never tied that music or that whatever to like a cultural thing, like in terms of like my life. It was just like that's what it was out there.
Well, let's talk about Wiggers. You saw once Cross Colors are out. Let's talk a little bit about
Wigger or Wigga.
There's a hard R on that one.
Hard R, yeah.
Oh,
I think there is, and they kind of deserve it.
Huh?
But that's a horrible thing to say, though, right? Like,
well, I mean, yes, it's a little lazy. I think we can be a little lazy with our vocab. But talk a bit about at least what that looked like, because that must have been, talk about a cultural shift. That's what I'm talking about, right? Seeing black influence in such a different way affect everybody and how it affected us.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of things were born through that music.
Born to that music, and it created a lot of like hardcore, like loyal followers, and some of it I think took it too seriously, especially like
Did it raise you a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, like
I know I learned about loyalty through black music, through gangster rap. You know what I mean?
You're right. Yeah,
that was a huge takeaway for me from that specific genre of music.
Right. I guess you do. I mean, you learn what you immerse yourself in, right? Whatever that is.
Yeah.
And a lot of positive stuff from that too, and a lot of it was just like it's music. It's music, right? Like those things, like shootings and that can be real somewhere else, but in this context, it's just like a song. It's a cool thing, right? But a lot of it's I'm sure authentic and still being made today. Authentic music like that. I forgot where I was going to go.
That's fine, because I've been dying. I'm on the tip of my tongue, or on the edge of my seat, rather, to ask you. Kanye West?
I don't really know Kanye West that much. Like, I know he's running for president, and I know he's a Kardashian dude, and I know he had like 2 cool songs I liked a long time ago.
Do you remember what those songs were? We're talking College Dropout.
Jesus Walks.
Oh yeah, that song's fire.
Yeah.
Okay,
and that's all I know.
All right, fair enough. So you have really nothing to lend to that topic, which is okay.
I think there is something. Okay, so there is. This might get crazy for a second, right? But I'll tell you what I read. Okay, so there's a site called Vigilant Citizen, and it's written by one guy. It's a decent site, like whatever. But he does like all like what most people call conspiracy theories. Like deals a lot with like MK Ultra, which is not a conspiracy theory. It's a program that existed.
No, I keep hearing about this, and Michael tried to explain it to me. I don't know what it is.
Okay, it's how do you control someone's mind, and can you divide their mind into different things, and can you like control their mind this way? Like, what did you see?
You can't
Manchurian.
control
I am right now. I made you say that.
Did you really?
Think about that. So the Manchurian, the Manchurian Candidate was a movie.
Yeah, I know
and it was like
about
okay, so you know, okay, so like they clicked a button and he went and killed the president or something. Like that, right? So that kind of stuff, right? Or Oswald or whatever.
And this
it was.
is real.
It's a real program. Yeah.
Wow.
They say they canceled it a while back, but like change the name or cool, whatever.
And we're not embedding like chips inside brains. We are actually.
Well, Bill Gates wants to do that, but like that's later.
Okay,
that's 2021.
Okay,
coming soon.
That's like tomorrow.
Yeah, it's pretty quick.
Let's go right to that. What's happening in 2021? What's Bill Gates doing?
I don't know what he's doing, man, but I know that he was like a software engineer, and now he's like Mr. Vaccine Save the World guy, and like the most like utmost authority on vaccines, which are controversial to begin with.
Yeah,
I just don't understand that.
Yeah,
and he's got a weird fascination. I think that's you can look up and you can read his literature that he's written and talks that he's given about like eugenics, like reducing the size of the population of the world. Right? Whenever you just say those words, they want to reduce. 90% of people just like shut off right now, right? Like, but you can go and you can look and you can listen.
No, they shouldn't because it's reality. Right. It's interesting when I think about a white man talking about eugenics. Who's the first group of people to go? I'm trying
who
to.
are already going. Yeah,
I know they're in Africa doing it right now. They're testing these vaccines. I want to understand, and I know you can answer this because you're not them, but why this whole Martha Stewart, Mr. Rogers push? Why are they presenting it like that? If you're going to be a monster, be a monster.
Well, they want you to accept it. So there's a rather long campaign to get you to accept it.
That's
number one being fear and dividing everyone.
Yeah. That's just a hard. That's a big pill to swallow. Tell me a bit about conspiracy theories in general, because I know we've talked about it. We've talked about friends that we've tried to broach these conversations with, and they are so closed that it's scary how closed off they are just to a different and I hate the word conspiracy theory because that alone it's stupid.
Dismissive,
right? So I'm going to change it right now. Let's just say a different perspective. Right.
I like it.
So it's sometimes we will try to broach these conversations with friends with just a different perspective that we may not even be 100% sold on, or even 50%, just for sake of conversation, right? And the reactions are one that is just it scares them.
Yeah, they give it no oxygen whatsoever.
Agree. Right. So tell me a bit about some of the maybe different beliefs that you might have, and
that's a whole nother show. By the way, oh my God, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like,
because we can save it for another show.
Well, we can do conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy
show. So I mean,
I want to know ones that you actually that you have some investment in.
I mean, investment is only like how much. Okay, people do this like the research. I mean, what it really is, it's not a theory that you may or may not have for most people. I mean, people can have whatever theory they want, right? For me, it's like I'm OCD enough to where like if I hear something, I'm going to chase it down in any way I can, cross-reference this, that, whatever it is, because I want to know, like, is that real? And you can't always know if it's real, but you can get as close as possible to like look at everything that's available on the subject. And then you can, maybe prove it, or you make an assumption, or you can go like, that's BS or whatever it is, right? So that's
and never think about it again.
And never think about it again, right? Or you can just choose to never think about it, whatever it is, right? So like I hear these things, and I just have this drive inside of me that wants to like research stuff. So I don't.
Your interest is piqued.
Yeah, it is. Like that, for some reason I'm just drawn to it, and I want to and like I said, it's not. I don't even particularly like talking about conspiracy theories or whatever it is, because like, I mean, most people, a lot of people will just be dismissive, or they'll have their opinion on it, ready to like just put theirs on the table and not really like discuss it. Like I like discussing things.
That's their little MK Ultra. Oh, I'm getting it now.
Yeah,
I was raised to question authority, so it's like you can tell me something, and I'll be like, okay, well, let me look behind that. Yeah, like, is that real? And also using my gut all day. I'm like, that doesn't feel right. No, not buying that at all. Yeah. I want to be a judge. I think I'd really effed up. I should have been a judge. Yeah, right. Because I'm like, you lie detector test all day, not buying it. Try again.
Right.
Start from the bottom. You get one
good
more
judge,
chance.
great lawyer.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wow. Okay. So you don't want to talk about any one specific. You're just going to talk more, and that's fine.
We talked about MK Ultra. So MK, there's even like there's some movies about it too that are somewhat comical. But I mean, what it really is they just mess with your brain, and they're usually people of influence. So like let's take a couple of easy ones that most people reference, like Michael Jackson. Britney Spears, a couple people that have like died. What's the name? Winehouse, Amy Winehouse, all these things. Kurt Cobain at some point, whatever it is.
I've heard some of these names attached to this theory.
Yeah, and so like if the people, and this is true, you can look it up in whatever site you want. Like you can see people who own the media companies, the record companies, and Instagram, whatever, all this stuff, like the same people own it. And, if they own it, there must be some benefit to owning it, right? Whatever that is, okay? Money, power, whatever, influence, whatever, buy our products. So then you want people in there that you can control, right? And guide a certain way. So, hey, everyone gets that, right? Like, this person's going to help you through the ins and outs and whatever it is, cool. But then there's another thing where they push certain agendas, like, the MTV Video Music Awards is a really good one to watch. It's like full of like satanic, like ritual like looking things, like for no reason. It's like Britney Spears singing a song about like pop love, and she's like dressed like like Baphomet or something like that. Like, and you're just like, what's really happening? But like if you just watch it, you're like, oh, that's weird, or that's cool, or you don't know what to think. But it goes in, you see it, and you identify with this symbology that keeps being shown to you. Or you can like look it up and go like, hey, why is that happening? Like you're like, hey, what's happening behind the camera, or like what's back there? So
do you think in that example that's something that Britney obviously wasn't even aware of? Like her handlers are saying, let's go with this kind of Rent theme, and let's go with this kind of like, you know what I mean? Like, right? There's other people kind of piecing it together. This is going to be your look for this tour or something. Yeah,
and I mean, what have artists always said? Like in some form or another, you kind of sell your soul, right?
Totally, that's true. That is one.
It's not by accident.
That's a good point, and it's not even say that they sell something else or selling out. They actually say that they sell their soul. That's a trip.
Yeah,
I never correlated that statement with the actual reality that they really are kind of just like a bit, but we're not implying that there's something embedded in her or that she's some sort of robot or anything.
Well, I mean, no,
right,
not like a robot or something, but I mean like there's a whole. Have you heard of Free Britney? Like she's being like held, or like there's like some conspiracy.
Oh, I remember that. I don't know, this was a while ago.
It's still ongoing.
Okay,
it's like a million Free Britney tags every day. But like, and then she freaks out in her Instagram videos, and you're like, what's happening? And you're like, and they're like, if you need help, wear a blue shirt. And then she like wears a blue shirt. And then like, hey, it's my favorite color, guys. And you're like, it's happening, right? But like that's a really weird thing. But like, she's messed up, right? She seems messed up. She shaved her head, like dude. Everyone gets messed up at some point. We've all been there, right? Like, there's no shame in going through a moment that is televised and the way she did it.
Yeah,
seems like there was like something else going on,
right?
So whatever. I don't know anything about Britney. I'll just use that as an example, but. I mean, you want to influence people obviously the way you want to influence them. You want them to buy whatever you're selling, be that political stuff you don't even know you're being sold, or the product, all of these things, right? I mean, it's entertainment, it's actors, it's a lot of stuff, and I really think that even gets into politics, right? I mean, like these are all corporations we're talking about that are, have like certain actors that influence whatever it is that's part of the business. And then, those people cross over with politics quite a bit too. And I think, the whole thing is, somewhat engineered. Dude, out of everyone in America, we have Biden or Trump. Like, that's it. Like, I'm not hating on either one of them, sorry. But like, I mean, not just for the sake of the, for the fun of the conversation. Like, who cares that it's those two? But we only have two people to choose from.
Right.
Really? And that are like, there's probably 5 or 10 of the people running. I can't name any of them. Can you?
No.
Right. Okay. That's by like right. There's probably great people running, but like we're funneled into these two.
I mean, I guess if I had to sit here and yes, but anyway, go on.
Yeah. I don't know where I was going. I think I might have done.
No, and you bring up again a really good point. It's like, but that's again another podcast which really has to do with like the huge gaping holes in our system, obviously. But for me, what I'm holding on to with what you just said is the fact that these guys are both in their 70s and they're supposed to be calling shots for a nation of people
and a new generation that wants change.
The concept of that alone
Right.
to me is not one that I like to. I think it's silly. And again, I don't want to say Obama, but he was at least he was a younger, fresher mind, and look, the older I get, I have trouble forming sentences sometimes and remembering words. Absolutely. I can't imagine how I'm going to be at 75.
Exactly.
All right, so we're almost out of time. So you've given me really just a little bit to no hope. I need some hope.
Hope. Oh, it's all about. It's
hope
all
on
about
a rope.
hope.
But I know I'm poking fun with you, a little vague. But let's talk a bit about some of the things that you do and you have done, for the exception of travel, that keep you kind of in a positive space, that keep you kind of in a hopeful space. Do that for me.
Yeah, that's a daily thing that that I like to do, is just, whether it's like, just be aware, breathe, right? All the Buddha stuff, breathe, be in the moment. Okay. Starts there, and then knowing that you have a decision to be who you want to be, and the influence you want to be on your friend's life and your family's life, and people walking down the street, right? You can choose to be whatever you want for the most part, right? I mean, we're all strapped in these bodies and whatever it is, but you can choose to learn something, to change yourself, to better yourself. You can choose to be nice to someone, say hi, whatever it is, all day long, every day. And it doesn't even matter if you do say hi to that person or if you don't see anybody that day. If you're being a better person every single day, then that gives me hope, right? Because that makes my life positive as possible every day.
So staying present, right? So give us some actions. How do you stay present? Is it just something that you do? Do you meditate? Do you have to remind yourself in each moment to stay present?
I've always tried to meditate, man. I always fall asleep, because my back hurts, so I can't sit up, so I'm I'll just lay down to the same thing, right? And then I'm forever. But you try to. I mean, it's practice, like anything else, right? The more you do it, the more you're going to remember it. But it's just little moments throughout the day, like just driving over here, which is a super cool drive, by the way. Does anyone in LA know that there's an oil field right in the middle of Los Angeles?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
I did know that, but I don't think anyone. It's so weird. Right above the airport, right there. Yeah. So super cool driving.
La Cienega, go ahead.
La Cienega.
Yeah.
So driving over here, you can, there's tons of traffic or whatever, and you can choose to this sucks, and get in the other lane and go back and forth and have that energy, or you can be none of this really matters. I'm gonna get where I'm gonna go, and whatever it is, and you just breathe. And
you were late. You were late.
Yeah, I was a little bit late. Yeah, it was traffic.
No, I'm kidding. I kept telling you.
And I was driving super slow.
But I can't, again, no rush. It's I love that you're saying this, because there's so much truth to that, and it's something that I've learned in the past, just recently. Right. I remember I got a book. It was Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's good.
And I had held on to the idea of it for just long enough to be able to remember it, but I stopped practicing it. And now at this point in my life, staying present it's of the essence.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's so many things that are just, flowing through our screens and our lives, and what's going on. Yeah. 2020 is a motherfucker, dude. Can I say that?
Yeah, you just did.
Okay. But what a beast. And just you don't know what's coming next.
Right.
That's the whole thing.
And again, I've always feel with trying to have dialogue with people, especially people you don't have agree with, look for the commonalities. And the one commonality right now is that we all are in the dark about the unknown. And that is a indescribable feeling. I don't it's for me, especially because I'm a worrywart. What the
Right. But that unknown is pure potential.
Well, look,
we create that.
Get it, and right? I think that that's again a nod to Nikki and Mitch, and just having the opportunity to do this is you should be able to try to turn something positive from something negative.
Absolutely, yeah, and create the positive, right? What's going to happen tomorrow? Tomorrow I'm going to get up, I'm going to be a better person, or I'm going to try and make a small difference in someone's life, whatever it is, right? I'm
going to challenge you to be a big brother, dude.
Okay, I'm in, dude. I'm going to commit.
Okay.
Right after we talk after this.
Okay. Hey, he just committed on air. I don't know what we're going to talk about after this, but he just committed. All right, so we're going to wrap this up. I'm super grateful for you again taking another hour to chat with me.
Absolutely, man. I love this.
This is great. You're a good friend. I'm really grateful. Do you have anybody you want to call out to see, maybe somebody that you might think of that might be a good fit for the podcast?
Andre Venner. That's a good friend of mine, and
that name sounds. I've heard that name.
Yeah.
How do you spell the last name?
Vener.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think there might be an accent somewhere.
No,
not veneer, but it's Andre with a.
Got it.
Yeah.
How
Oh, we're very European. Right? Are you from Switzerland or something? But an extremely smart guy.
Yeah.
With a lot of like world experience and just like one of those special people that I think would contribute a lot.
Yeah, and really, like he loving on a like it's hard to describe the kind of love he has for the people that he loves. Like
Absolutely.
it's a very different kind of love. It's a very it's a really nice love. He's a good dude.
It is, and I learned. I'll tell you what. Before we wrap up here, the one thing, many things I've learned from this guy, but one thing that I try to use daily is in his phone. He has his top 20 favorite people, right? And he has like a like in recents or favorites, whatever it is. He makes sure to call everyone once a week.
Whoa!
Once a week, no matter what. Hey, hi, how you doing? What's going on? Cool, blah blah blah, whatever.
I haven't heard from him since April.
Yeah, I didn't make the list. You got to get in the favorites.
I'm just kidding. I hear from that dude all the time.
I know you do.
I wonder if you put him. I hope he didn't put him or anybody else on blast. Like but no, I do hear. We talk often, and I didn't know that.
Yeah,
and again,
that's true.
That is. I'm going to add that to the actions today because that is something that people can do. I talked to my aunt earlier. She's like, make calls, send emojis, send love, 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 love. That's dope.
Right.
So all right. So as we say goodbye, two things: focus on staying present and make a list of people that you love and reach out to them. That's co-signed by Andre.
Yes, branded by Andre. Yeah.
All right, buddy. I appreciate you.
Cheers, man.
All right. Thank you. We appreciate you. Always follow us on Facebook, Instagram, all the social media platforms. Share the podcast if you love them, and share love. Always, we love you. Do your part. We'll see you soon.
Peace.